All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think I am live. I think it is go time. If you guys could do me a favor, we do a little bit of a technical test here. If you guys could post hello or hi or what's up or happy Saturday, anything in the chat, let me make sure that we are actually live, because it seems like every time I try to go live on YouTube here, there's some type of technical difficulty. We're live. I think we are actually live. Okay, I see the chat coming in. Hello, hello, hello. Wow, welcome back. Today is a great day. It is Saturday, May 3rd, I believe. Yep, 4 p.m. West Coast, 7 p.m. East Coast. And today I'll tell you what, we have a lot to talk about. I want to reiterate something I announced yesterday, though first, however, is that going forward, starting yesterday, now every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we are going to be live right now. 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Western, 3 days a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, prime time. That is the schedule going forward. So mark on your calendars. This is stream number 2, I guess. Yesterday was great, and today is going to be even better, and I think things are going to keep on getting better as we keep on doing it. So we need to get in the motion. It's all about the motion. So once again, thank you all very much for tuning in today. We really do have a good show. Speaking of show, before we start talking about the news, what is the name of this show? People keep calling it a podcast. People keep saying, hey, I enjoy your video. What? Your live stream? Because I feel like every other political streamer here on YouTube, they've all got, they've got a name for their broadcast. Now, is this alert going to work here from Michael P? I think so. Maybe not. Goal for us supporters, Matt, 1 million subs on YouTube before the end of 2025. We can make that happen. That'll be difficult. Maybe we can do it. I'll tell you what, in the last 6 months, this channel has gone up, I think, maybe 450,000 subscribers in the last 6 months, but things have kind of slowed down a little bit now that we've come out of political season. So you know what? We don't have to have a million. I'm happy with everybody that tunes in and subscribes and hangs out and watches the videos. I'm happy. Okay. I think enough is enough, but anyway, no, thank you. Thank you all very much for tuning in today. But I was trying to say real quick, the Morse show, the Morse podcast, the Morse code, the remorseless podcast. I don't know. I'm not creative in that way. There's different types of creativity, and that type of creativity, I don't have it. So right now it's just going to be called the show. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to my show, but I don't know. I don't have a name. I don't have a name for the show. It just is the show. But anyway, we are live today with the show, and we have a lot to talk about today. So first off, we're going to talk about AOC, who is under federal investigation courtesy of the Department of Justice. We have some big updates regarding that entire story. We're going to break that down. Then we're going to be talking about Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, who said just earlier today that there is a massive COVID origins expose coming out very soon. So we're going to have a little segment talking about COVID and where it came from, and Anthony Fauci and China. And so we're going to go through that. Oh, Alexi Parshin,
I
thank
swear
you.
the best political commentators are ex-classic hardcore players. Have a nice stream today. God bless you and your close ones. Red heart emoji, Russia emoji.
He's from Russia. Thank you, Alexi. Thank you. I'll talk about that here in a second.
Name of podcast, Morse Force, and get an artist to cover over the M and Morse W and F over it.
See, that's the type of creativity that I don't have. You have it. I don't have that creativity. The Morse Force. That is a cool name. You know what? Maybe I can work with that. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. It is true. Back to Alexi. For the last 8 years, I have been a video game streamer playing video games on Twitch. And it was only just maybe 6 or 7 months ago, I said, you know what, really my true hobby, my true interest, my true adult passion is talking about politics and following politics. In fact, if any of you have been watching my video game stuff for the last almost decade over on Twitch, we were playing video games, but really just yapping, talking about politics all day. So it was kind of a weird match. It was nonstop video game playing, but political talking. And so I said, you know what? I don't really even care about video games a whole lot. Let's just talk about politics all day. And really, that's what I'm doing now. So, and I'm much happier. It's much more fulfilling. And I'm very lucky you guys are here tuning in. So it's going to be a good show. So beyond the national intelligence Tulsi Gabbard COVID origins story that we're going to talk about today, we are also going to go over a bombshell report that came out likewise just earlier today, going over what is really going on inside of the Trump administration, directly relating to President Trump's former national security advisor, Mike Waltz, who has now lost his job as the national security advisor. Now he's doing something else.
Much love from Michigan. And Foxi needs to go down for crimes against humanity. I'm out at work, but have a great stream.
Hey, thank you. Have a good day at work. Thank you, Greg from Michigan. Have a great day at work. I agree. Something has to be done with Anthony Fauci. I think something has to be done with China. As you know, Anthony Fauci got a preemptive pardon prior to Joe Biden leaving the White House. Why would they do that? Why would the Democrats, why would Joe Biden offer Anthony Fauci a sweeping preemptive blanket pardon if he didn't do anything wrong? I think that kind of speaks to his guilt a little bit, but we're going to break that down a little bit more later today. And so the fourth and final big news story that we are going to talk about today is Kamala Harris, everybody's favorite progressive loser idiot, Kamala Harris, who's a total, I was going to say dumbass. Am I allowed to swear a little bit? Normally I don't swear at all in my videos. On the live streams here, can I say dumbass? I don't want to offend anyone. Maybe I could, at a minimum, can I call Kamala Harris a dumbass? She is a dumbass. Anyway, that's enough of that. But so we're going to talk a little bit about Kamala Harris today. She has been nominated for an Emmy, which is just impossible to believe, but she has. We're going to talk about that. And she actually, a couple days ago, gave her very first public speech, I think 2 days ago, after she lost the election 5 months ago. So we're going to touch base with that, and it's going to be a good day. We have a lot to talk about. Now, I do want to address some people in the audience first before we get into this, okay? I checked the comments on yesterday's podcast live stream episode, and some people were saying that they prefer the short form content. Not a whole lot of people, but I had enough comments I want to address it. Where's the short form content? I don't have time to watch the long form content. This is an hour and a half. Who has time to watch? Listen, we are going to continue doing the short form content every day. I do to be very specific, 3 days a week, I do 2 videos, 8 or 9 minute videos. 4 days a week, I do 3 videos. So it's not that I'm going to stop making the short form videos. I love making the short form videos. I made 2 of those today. But now also 3 days a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern, we are also doing these long form streams where it's a little bit more relaxed. It's a little bit kind of shoot from the hip. I can let my hair down, my beautiful, long, luscious hair. I can let it down and we can kind of chill out and relax a little bit. So it is going to be a little bit less concise because we're going to kind of meander around. There's going to be people doing the donations, the super chats, and I'm going to talk to chat a little bit. But listen, just because we're doing this now also does not mean that we're not doing the other stuff. We're going to continue doing the other stuff. So don't worry. What hair? My beautiful hair that I keep hidden under my hat. But, I understand maybe it's not for everybody, but we're going to do it anyway, okay? Like I said, I'm going to be making so much content, you're going to get sick of me. Maybe a little bit, but, that's the way that it is. Okay, so what do you guys say we start breaking down the news? We have 4 big news stories I want to talk about with you all today, and I think we should get into it. So let me hop us over here. This is the article that I saw on Breitbart today, and let's start digesting some of this. Showdown looms as Tom Homan explores a pause.
Australia voted for more communism. I can't imagine Australia getting better in the next 4 years.
You know what? I hate to disappoint. I don't have a story put together right now for the Australian election. Tomorrow, let's talk about what's going on in Australia. Today, we're not going to talk a whole lot about Australia. Tomorrow, we are. Okay, so come back tomorrow for the Australian news. Today, AOC, thank you very much, by the way. Showdown looms as Tom Homan explores case against AOC for obstructing immigration enforcement. As you all know, AOC has been, for the last couple months, been giving advice to illegal immigrants, explicitly telling them how to avoid federal immigration agents, telling them how to avoid getting deported. And so Tom Homan and the Trump administration, they are not happy about it. And so now Tom Homan has given the Department of Justice a direct referral to potentially criminally prosecute Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. AOC. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a Democrat from New York, on Friday dared border czar Tom Homan to arrest her for what she claimed was legal advice she gave to migrants on how to avoid being deported. And if you don't believe it, here is exactly what she said.
When we first did one of these seminars, Tom Homan, then acting director of ICE, said that he was going to threaten to refer me to the DOJ because I'm using my free speech rights in order to advise people of their constitutionally guaranteed protections, and he may want to do it again today. And to that I say, come for me.
God, if you are listening, please let Tom Homan arrest Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. If you can do me a favor, I know it's Saturday, it's not Sunday, but please lock her up. Please facilitate Tom Homan arresting this woman, this traitorous, hyper-progressive congressional representative, please, who is actively working to subvert our democracy, to subvert our Constitution, to subvert tax-paying Americans, to subvert the entire country. And you know what? They can arrest all of the people in the audience too. I don't really care either. If they're signing on to this, they can maybe get arrested also. This is what Tom Homan said a couple months ago about this DOJ referral. Take a look.
That up to DOJ, what I find disturbing is that any member of Congress wants to educate people how they evade law enforcement. You can claim you're educating those constitutional rights. Okay, you can keep that claim. But what she in fact is doing is telling people don't open your door, hide in your home, don't talk to ICE. We're talking about people who are in the country illegally, committed a crime, they're a public safety threat, they've been convicted of serious crime, and they've been ordered removed by a federal judge. So it's like AOC and others don't want ICE to enforce the laws that they enacted. She's a member of Congress. Let us enforce the laws you enacted. That's what we're supposed to do.
You can't go after her. Do you think others should?
No, I think
yes.
that's DOJ.
Yes.
Where's that line of impediment, of interference?
Just say yes. Yes, I think the DOJ should go after Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for instructing illegal immigrant, invader, cartel gang member terrorists that are existing in this country illegally. I think the DOJ should criminally pursue her and lock her up. Yes, remember 2016? Lock her up. Yes, I think they should, absolutely.
Now, if someone stands in your way, prevents you from arresting somebody, put your hands on you, that's impediment. But what line is telling people to hide from ICE, not open the door? Where do you cross that line on impediment? So I've simply asked the Department of Justice, give us that line.
You have talked to them about this. That's what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
We'll see where that goes. Tom Homan, I'm out of time.
The phrase that comes to mind is crossing the Rubicon. Remember, it was Julius Caesar, I believe, who took his armies and marched across the Rubicon into Rome. There was a rule back in ancient Rome. The generals are not allowed to bring their armies across the Rubicon down into the Italian peninsula. You got to stay out. Caesar said, you know what? We're doing it anyway. We are crossing the Rubicon. It means like a very large substantive political maneuver. I hope that in one way we cross the Rubicon here. I think these people, these radical progressive deep state actors, politicians, people in the federal judiciary, maybe even Supreme Court Justice. We talked about Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson in today's video earlier today. These people are actively working to undermine and destroy the country. No ifs, ands, or but. This is just like on the record. In fact, they're talking about it publicly. They think, listen, yeah, we should not be deporting illegal immigrants. In fact, we should have an open border and everybody should be welcome in the country, even if you're an MS-13 gang member, even if you're a terrorist, even if you're a wife-beating MS-13 Trende Iraq. Doesn't matter. Come on in the country. In fact, we're going to have special cities. We're going to call them sanctuary cities to facilitate your entire existence. We're going to funnel billions of dollars of taxpayer money to keep you alive and to keep you housed. We're going to put you in 5-star hotels in New York. We're going to give you a monthly stipend. We're going to give you spending money and food. This has got to stop. This is traitorous behavior. This has got to stop. In this regard, I hope that the Trump administration crosses the Rubicon, so to speak, and puts an end to this behavior legally. I hope there's due process. I hope that these people have a trial. Okay, that's what I'm saying. But this behavior, the point is this behavior has got to stop. Homan responded to the Congresswoman's taunt by saying he was already exploring her arrest with the United States Department of Justice. So the video we watched here, this is from a couple months ago. This is breaking news as of today. So they are already exploring the possibility, the avenue that they can go down to arrest Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. There is an ongoing U.S. Department of Justice federal investigation. Excuse me. The dare came at a packed town hall in Queens after Homan previously suggested Ocasio-Cortez's hosting of a, quote, Know Your Rights webinar in February impedes immigration and customs ICE enforcement from carrying out the Trump administration's deportation of illegal aliens. Here's the deal. This is my humble take as an American. If you are an illegal immigrant, you don't have a right to be here. You need to leave. The only right you have if you are an illegal immigrant in this country is the right to get the hell out of the country. That's the only right of yours I am concerned with.
More Sourcecast, news content with relaxed adaptability. Engage with chat even if off topic for fun. Let chat create content to talk about equals loyalty.
Aaron, be honest. Did you ask ChatGPT? Did you? May I don't know, but yeah, it's not a bad idea. You know, maybe. Who knows? But anyway, I've kind of liked, real quick, a little bit of a side tangent. I like how kind of low key this podcast is. A lot of other political podcasts on YouTube, they're very, they're maybe a little bit too serious. We can kind of, chill out and we can relax and walk through this stuff. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you very much. Ocasio-Cortez told a cheering audience, quote, Tom Homan said he was going to refer me to the DOJ because I'm using my free speech rights in order to advise people of their constitutional protections. To that, I say, come for me. Do I look like I care? Once again, please, by the end of the year, let AOC be inside of a federal prison. Please. That would be the best timeline because, once again, she is using her role, her position as a United States House representative. She is using that elected position to instruct people who are here illegally in the country, all of whom are terminologically criminals, a lot of whom are terrorist cartel gang members, how to avoid getting apprehended, detained, and deported by our immigration enforcement ICE. That's what she's doing with her elected position. This behavior has got to stop. It is traitorous. It is treasonous. It is whatever you want to call it. It's got to stop. She added, there was, quote, nothing illegal about it, and if they want to make it illegal, they can come take me. I really hope that we do. The webinar recommended illegal aliens ask for warrants and deploy phones to record ICE searches. It provided tips.
Hey, Matt. Been watching you for a while now. Thought I'd support the channel.
Wow, Curtis, thank you. That's a huge $50 donation there. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that a lot. I really do. Thank you very much. And then there's also Nico with the $2.99. Thank you very much as well. I'm very blessed to have all the support that I have from you guys. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, very, very much. As far as I'm concerned, I've got the best audience in the entire internet. That's how I feel. So thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the support. The webinar recommended illegal aliens ask for warrants and deploy phones to record ICE agents during their searches. It provided tips on how to differentiate between different warrants authorities are likely to carry. Homan had, can I just give my humble American opinion here? We're talking about due process. The Democrats, the radical progressives, you got to have due process for all of these illegal immigrant gang members. You can't just get rid of, this is how I feel. Okay. The only due process that should be afforded to an illegal immigrant is verifying that they are in fact an illegal immigrant. Once we have determined you are in fact an illegal immigrant, we have met the due process and now you are getting the hell out of the country. Anything beyond that, waste of time, waste of taxpayer money. Once we have determined verifiably, okay, this person is in fact an illegal immigrant, now you need to get out. Now we're putting you on a plane and we're shipping you back to Mexico or Guatemala or El Salvador or wherever you happen to be from. That's all. So I agree, due process, the due process of making sure that they are illegal before we get rid of them.
Cannot be deported back to the horse barn? Those teeth are a dead giveaway. She's Mr. Ed's daughter.
You know, I always think of the donkey from Shrek. If you guys have seen that, AOC donkey face. I know this is kind of rude to say this, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is not nice, but I am frankly always reminded of the donkey from Shrek every time I see AOC. But anyway, that's beside the point. We're talking about the legality of all of this.
Thanks for a great channel. Been watching for a while. Keep up the great work.
Doug, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We're keeping up. We're keeping it up. Thank you very much. Holman has repeatedly said that the Congresswoman likely ventured into, this is important, the Congresswoman likely ventured into illegal territory with her advice that she gave to these illegal immigrants. After AOC's town hall dare, Holman told Fox News, quote, "I'm working with the Department of Justice and finding out where is that line that they cross." So maybe AOC is going to be in trouble now. She ought to be in trouble. I really hope. In an appearance in February on Sunday Morning Futures, Holman was a little bit more specific. Let's take a look at this here. What she needs to do is read the statutes enacted by Congress because it's a crime to enter this country illegally. True. Not only that, but when you harbor and conceal and impede law enforcement, that is a felony. Ladies and gentlemen, by giving all of these illegal immigrants advice on how to avoid apprehension, detention, deportation, is she impeding law enforcement? Is she aiding and abetting illegal immigrants? I think you can make a very strong case that yes, in fact, that is exactly what she's doing. And as such, felony, as such, federal crime, as such, you're going to prison. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, we can only hope. Maybe someday soon. Not only that, but when you harbor and conceal and impede law enforcement, that's a felony. Cardinal.
Yesok was among other things advising people how to avoid lawful arrest and deportation by ICE agents.
You're exactly right. And what is that? In my opinion, we'll see. Who knows? The justice system is going through its motions. Felony, federal crime, we can only hope. What she's doing, she says, she's educating everybody on their constitutional rights. And we all know that they've got constitutional rights, but what she's really doing, she's trying to teach them how to evade law enforcement. Yeah, Tom Homan is absolutely right. At the town hall yesterday, AOC also took on one of the Trump administration's most popular immigration policies. She called the removal of Venezuelan gang members, get this, sanctioned kidnappings. Once again, I'm going to give you guys my humble opinion here. Personally, I hope that every single Venezuelan gang member or illegal immigrant gang member, regardless of where they are from in the first place, I hope they are all kidnapped and deported back to their country of origin. I think all of them, every single one of them should be snatched off the street or their house or wherever they might be at the moment, put on a bus, put on an airplane, and shipped back to wherever they came from. We don't need Venezuelan gang members in this country. We don't need MS-13 gang members. We don't need human traffickers. We have enough domestic American citizen criminals. We can barely handle our own domestic criminals, okay? We don't need to be importing more criminals. We have enough criminals, okay? They all have to go. She claimed that without a warrant, agents don't have carte blanche to enter and arrest gang members. President Trump's highest approval ratings, polls consistently have shown, come from his tough crackdown on illegal crossings and removal of criminal illegal aliens and gang members. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, I'm 31 years old. When I think back to the Democrat Party of maybe, I don't know, 2000, maybe 2005, maybe 2010, I don't know. Back then, at least they pretended to champion, whether or not they actually did, they pretended to champion American causes. They at least pretended to be the party of the blue collar worker, the party of the union worker, the party of the middle income America. They don't even pretend these days. The Democrat Party in the year 2025, they've taken the mask off, and now just they've let the entire country know, hey, Democrat Party here, yeah, we officially are the party of illegal immigrant gang members. Democrats, yeah, we are now the official party of Tren de Aragua. We are now the official party of MS-13. They're not even pretending. They don't even bother to lie to the American public in that way anymore. Now they're just like, yeah, listen, we're going to spend all of our time, we're going to spend all of our energy and all of our resources defending illegal immigrant gang members and human traffickers and fentanyl dealers and whatever else terrible. That's what they do now. And so that kind of wraps up the AOC story here. Hey, listen, as we now know, there still to this day, there is an ongoing federal investigation into AOC and her aiding and abetting of illegal immigrant gang members. So this might materialize into something very soon.
I love your channel, Matt. I found you through Jason, who shares your content quite often. Thank you for all you do.
Johanna Cohn, hey, thank you. I don't think I've seen that. Jason Q, I will make a mental note. Jason Q, I'll check that out later today. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I know there are, it's actually, I'll tell you kind of a funny story before we move on to our next segment here. I am aware of some other channels, some other YouTubers that they react to my videos that I upload. In fact, I had another YouTuber, he messaged me, he said, hey, did you know that this YouTuber is watching your content and he's reacting to it and uploading it? And, maybe some people would get mad about that. I'm not really sure. For me, I think that's fine. That's totally fine. If other people want to react to my content because they think my videos are good and then they give their opinion, fine. It's just more eyeballs on what we're doing here. And I think it's probably a net positive. As you said, you came here from Jason Q. So, hey, you know what? It is what it is. Thank you very much, Johanna. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Excuse me. I'm trying to get rid of this cough. Excuse me. But, ladies and gentlemen, what do you say we move on to the next story of the day? Our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has said earlier today, actually earlier 2 days ago, very recently, that there is a COVID origins expose, a full document coming out very soon. Let me read the brief here. Work is progressing on the continued origins of the COVID-19 pandemic through a special teams group. The Director's Initiative Group is what it's called, which is focused on investigating several of President Donald Trump's top priorities, according to Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Gabbard, in an interview on the Megyn Kelly Show, said the group is working with National Institutes of Health Director Jay Bhattacharya and Health Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. to investigate the gain-of-function research. Now we're talking Anthony Fauci. Gain-of-function research that was performed in China and all over the world, and results of the probe could be revealed very soon. Okay, so what I want to do with you guys, we referenced this Tulsi Gabbard, Megyn Kelly interview. This is a 7-minute long interview. I want to watch this with you guys, and we're going to pause. We're going to react to it and break it down. We're talking about Fauci. We're talking about the lab in Wuhan. We're talking about COVID origins. We're talking about RFK Jr. Let's see what's going on. There was a bombshell expose report coming very soon. Let's hear about it.
On the subject of documents that we'd like to see but haven't, COVID and its origins. I'm sure you saw that just before we sat down tonight, the Chinese State Council Information Office, I don't even want to know what that is, but it sounds bad. They have determined that COVID came from us, that it's more likely than not that COVID.
Did you folks see that report that came out 3 days ago? The CCP released their own independent report. The CCP has determined that COVID actually came from America, that COVID originated in America. Wow, thank you, CCP. It's like that's like asking a bank robber to investigate themselves, and they say, "Oh yeah, okay, we've conducted an investigation, and as it would turn out, we didn't rob the bank. In fact, the bank robbed themselves." It's like, hold up, wait a minute. You are the culprit here. You are the criminal. You're not allowed to investigate yourself. You are the one that did the you're the one that committed the crime.
COVID originated in the United States and not in China. I'm wondering whether you have any dispute with that based on what you've seen over here. The intelligence community has been responsible for trying to figure out, in part, how this thing started.
So I created a kind of a special teams group, the Directors Initiative group, that is focused on investigating a number of the president's top priorities and the things that the American people really deserve and want to know the truth about. The origins of COVID-19 is one of them. So they're actively working on that. A lot of the work that's been done is on covid.gov. Have you had?
I'll tell you what, I think some people don't care. They're like, COVID was what, 4 or 5 years ago. Do we really need to keep talking about this? Yeah, China did it probably, but who really cares? This is very important. It is very, very imperative. It is very important that China, the CCP, is held accountable for releasing a global pandemic that cost the global economy hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars, but more importantly, killed I don't even know how many millions of people around the world died as a consequence of COVID, must be held accountable. In fact, this is my opinion, best case scenario is we can build, maybe this is what we're talking about here. We can build an absolutely concrete case. We can build a concrete argument that in fact, beyond any shadow of a doubt, China created and released COVID. Imagine we could get every other country around the planet on board, the entire European Union, Latin America, Africa, whatever, every country, Southeast Asia, we get everybody on board to hold China accountable collectively. You have over 300 countries saying, China, listen, what you did here is unacceptable. The globe, not just America, the entire planet is holding you accountable now. And maybe that's tariffs, maybe that's
Thank
sanctions.
you for all your
who knows?
hard work informing America with truth in real time. Appreciate you.
Wisdom nuggets and tidbits with the 20. Thank you very much. I listen, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I'm very lucky to have so many people tuning in every day, watching the videos, tuning into the live stream. So thank you very much.
Get a chance to look.
Oh, Trump changed it.
It's quite
great.
a transformation of the website. For anybody watching, if you haven't seen it, check it out.
It's the annoying website too.
That website that we're talking about, I'm sure you guys have seen this. The Trump administration, take a look at this. This is whitehouse.gov. This is the official White House website /lab leak origins of COVID. Boom, lab leak in your face, the true origins of COVID-19, the origin, Dr. Fauci, it comes out of China, step by step by step. Look at this. That's a little bit weird. So this is the Wuhan seafood market, and it's less than 10 miles away from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. That's just a little bit weird. Who here has a good memory? Do you remember in 2020, 2021, the early days of COVID, when if you brought this up, if you talked about this right here, what we are looking at right now, if you brought this up just 5 years ago, you were called an unhinged, insane conspiracy theorist. If you had the cognitive function to point out, that's a little bit weird that the alleged point of origin of COVID, the Wuhan seafood market, is like 10 miles away from this Institute of Virology where they're making weaponized viruses. That seems a little bit weird. Hey, shut up. You're a conspiracy theorist. You're a nut job. You're insane. Shut up. In fact, you were actually banned. If you talked about this right here, you were banned on Facebook. You were banned on Twitter. You were banned here on YouTube. There was a global blackout on this information right here. So let's really take a moment to appreciate just how monumental, just how important it is that this information is on the whitehouse.gov website. And now we have our director of national intelligence investigating this. How far we have come in 4 years, 5 years. And let this be a reminder. Do you think that we would ever have found out the true origin of COVID if Kamala Harris had won the election? 0% chance.
Thank you for speaking the truth.
Joanne, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I like to say a video producer, me, a live streamer, whatever you want to call me. I have no value unless you guys tune in and give me value. You guys, by tuning in and watching the videos and tuning into the live streams, I only have the value that you give to me. So I'm very lucky I'm lucky that you guys have put that value in me. So thank you very much. Thank all of you.
Which YouTube and all social media used to refer people with Fauci talking points, and now it's been completely
reversed. So it's a lot of what's been found is already there. But the thing that we are working with Jay Bhattacharya, the new NIH director, on with, as well as Secretary Kennedy, is looking at the gain of function research that in the case of the Wuhan lab, as well as many others around, many of these.
We use this word a lot, gain of function. Fauci was funding gain of function research in China, also allegedly a lab in Ukraine. I think we're talking about that later on today. Anyway, what is gain of function research? Gain of function research, Elon Musk said this very astutely on the Joe Rogan podcast about a year ago. Gain of function research is effectively viral death maximization research. How can we produce a virus that will kill as many people as possible? That is so when we say gain of function research, it is death maximization research in the form of a virus. That is what we're talking about here.
These other biolabs around the world was actually US funded and leads to this dangerous kind of research that in many examples has resulted in either a pandemic or some other major health crisis.
Well, let me ask you specifically, because we already know that EcoHealth Alliance was partnering with this Wuhan lab to do gain of function research.
That's right.
Yeah.
We just have never been able to have somebody say, it was that exact experiment that led to this COVID bug. But have we gotten there? What's the new thing that you're digging in on?
We are working on that with Jay Bhattacharya and look forward to being able to share that, hopefully very soon.
Okay.
That's
So to me, it sounds like they have a paper trail. It sounds like we have a paper trail leading up to the creation of COVID as a consequence of gain of function research in the Wuhan lab. It sounds like they have found nail in the coffin definitive proof. And by the way, J.M. Farouche, thank you very much.
specific
Link.
correct, between the gain of function research and what we saw with COVID-19.
I mean, that would be extraordinary because just so the audience knows, if that's true, if it was Peter Daszak's research with the Wuhan so-called bat lady that caused this pandemic, then we did fund it. Then Anthony Fauci helped fund the pandemic.
The
He was
thing
in
that
charge of
he
fighting.
denied over and over and over to Senator Rand Paul's questioning.
That's right.
While under congressional oath, he swore an oath. He's speaking in front of Congress. He's giving an under oath congressional testimony. Nope, we didn't do any gain of function research. Nope, gain of function research. Never. I've never even heard of that. What is that? What does that mean? Gain of function? That's Anthony Fauci a couple years ago.
Right. Under oath.
And so, by the way, I hate to keep pausing. Now you understand why Joe Biden, right before he left the White House a couple months ago, what did he do? He gave a sweeping, preemptive blanket pardon to Anthony Fauci.
Under oath, exactly. So is it any wonder that he sought a preemptive pardon for anything during a certain period of time by President Biden before he left office?
And then strong-armed and smeared people like Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, anybody who came out and said, I don't know if that's natural. This actually smacks of lab.
And the reason why this is so important is not just what happened in the past, it's because this gain of function research is happening in biolabs around the world.
Well, this is where this is where my brain kind of goes here. Okay, so COVID was the consequence of gain of function research, the US or Anthony Fauci funded it. Okay. Is there anything else in these labs? COVID leaked out. Yeah, sure. Hold up one second from Rob.
Dems and CCP love some good old censorship. It's a lot easier
Yes, they
than
do.
truth. Matt has to actually work hard to bring us facts. Ty for being a patriot.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being a patriot. Thank everybody here tuning in. I appreciate it. Listen, I know we always say make America great again, America first. I don't think that's just an empty trope. I think it is happening, and I think it's because people have spoken up. They've gotten sick of this globalist progressive status quo. People are sick of being browbeaten for wanting to put, or beaten down, whatever the phrase is, just for wanting to put their country first. People have said enough. We want the truth. We want to stop this crazy stuff like creating deadly viruses in labs in China that ultimately leak out. And this is what I was saying. Thank you again, by the way. What I was saying is it conceivable that we have funded the creation of viruses that are even more deadly than COVID? Who knows? It could be a couple months from now, there's a different virus that leaks out of a different lab in China or in Ukraine or somewhere. And the virus is, we were very lucky, I guess. COVID was not as deadly as a lot of people thought it was going to be. Could have been worse. What if there is an even deadlier? What if there's an even more terrible virus that has been engineered as a consequence of this gain of function research that gets leaked out at some point in the future? God forbid. So this stuff is bad. Okay. Got to shut it down.
I got attacked, and I think you saw this. We've probably talked about it in your show before, when I warned against U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine when the Russia-Ukraine war kicked off. For this very reason. Who knows what kinds of pathogens are in these labs, and if released could create another COVID-like pandemic. And for that, I was called a Russian asset. You're, trumpeting Putin's talking points, all of this nonsense, simply for speaking the truth and stating facts that, by the way, are still on U.S. Embassy.
Jacobi, thank you very much. I appreciate the $20. It is true. Have you guys kind of noticed the trend, the radical, globalist, progressive left? They love to call every single person that disagrees with them or dares to question their official, unhinged, incompetent, radically progressive narrative. You're a Russian asset. Oh, you disagree with our radical progressive agenda? Well, you must be a Russian asset. Oh, well, you're a Russian asset. It's gotten a little bit old. And you know what? By the way, no one buys it anymore. It's kind of this boy who cried wolf scenario. They have called so many people Russian assets with zero proof, totally baselessly. They called Tulsi Gabbard. They called President Trump. Russian asset, zero proof. It's not the case. Nobody buys it anymore.
Ukraine's website today about how the U.S. has funded these biolabs in Ukraine. But my point is, in order to prevent another COVID-like pandemic or another major health incident that could affect us in the world, we have to end this gain of function research and provide the evidence that shows exactly why and how it's in our best interest, the American people's best interest, to bring about an end to it.
Can I just ask you one other question on that? Why did
Maybe this is a controversial take. We should not be trying to genetically engineer or whatever. We should not be trying to engineer super viruses in labs, especially in China or Ukraine, very volatile areas of the world that maybe don't like us so much. China's not really our ally. So we should not be funding this type of research anywhere in the world. We should not be trying to engineer super deadly hyperviruses that are capable of killing millions of people if they get leaked, and they have been leaked at one point. We should not be doing that anywhere. Here in America, anywhere. In China, of course not. In China, Ukraine, shouldn't be happening.
They
Michael.
also say threat to democracy, as you showed earlier today, Matt, in Europe.
Yeah.
It's happening in France, Germany, Romania, and even UK.
Yeah. You are a threat to democracy, so we, the progressive globalist elite, we have decided that we're not going to let people vote for you. You are such a threat to democracy that we are not going to let people democratically vote for you. That's a little bit hypocritical. that's a little bit weird. Alexi, thank you, by the way. Thank you again.
Intelligence community, why were they so reluctant to just say that? Under Joe Biden, they were split. The FBI eventually said, well, we kind of think it was a lab, and the Department of Energy said lab. But then the other agencies were like, no, we think more natural origin, long past the point when it did not look like natural origin.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you remember do you remember what we were told to believe? Okay, so it's early 2020. COVID has now swept across the world. things have kind of grinded to a halt. And some of us are starting to say, hold up, so this virus COVID is from Wuhan, from a fish or a wet market a couple blocks away from the virology lab. That's a little bit weird. And then the WHO and the CDC and Anthony Fauci, they came out. They actually said, no. It wasn't a lab. This is not a lab leak. There's no gain of function. Here's what really happened. You see, it was at a wet market in China, and a pangolin, which is kind of like an armadillo, crawled into a bowl of bat soup, and somehow the bat soup merged with the DNA of the pangolin in the Chinese market. And then everybody got COVID. That's really what it's like. Really? Hold up. Do you really expect us to believe that? And you think we're crazy for talking about the virology lab that is like 5 blocks
Global
away?
elite
Really?
and Dems worship the evil one. It's revelation playing out in front of us.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right. Hey, thank you, Michael. Thank you.
They tested
Thank you.
80 or 90,000 animals. They never found this version of the virus. So
Yeah.
what was going on with the intel community there?
It's a good question, and I don't
They were
have a
lying.
specific answer to it, but I want to point to the
She says, what was going on with the intelligence community? Well, I don't have an answer. I have an answer. The answer is they were lying. They knew what happened. They knew where the virus came from, and they were lying. That's why. That's it. It's not exactly a mystery. Bill Morris.
You're doing God's work, Maddie. Thank you. Pangolins rule.
I swear nobody even knew what a pangolin was before we were told to believe that pangolins invented COVID. And then pangolins. I know what a pangolin is. It's like an armadillo. Hey, thank you, Bill Morris. From Morris to Morris, thank you very much.
contrast of how in some cases they are very unwilling to come to express a view or a certain opinion on something. And in other cases, even if they don't have decisive or conclusive evidence per se, they're very quickly to come to an assumption. And this gets to the real heart of the challenge here, and the problems that we've seen is the politicization of intelligence to meet a certain objective or to influence a certain policy. And that is what has been the problem. This goes all the way back to why this organization was founded. When you look at the so-called intelligence that really was used to spur the Iraq regime change war. And look at what that has cost our country in lives, in treasure.
Do you folks remember hearing about how our intelligence apparatus determined conclusively? It's not even up for debate. In fact, if you ask for proof, you are anti-American. This is the post 9/11 hysteria, right? Everybody is freaking out. We have determined that Iraq, Saddam Hussein, they have weapons of mass destruction. If you even questioned the narrative, if you said, hold up, wait a minute, do they really? Do they, though? You were a traitor. You were anti-American. Well, guess what? As it would turn out, they did not have weapons of mass destruction.
Look at what it's cost the world. Look at what Iraq is today, now essentially a proxy of Iran. When Iraq, that would not have happened had that regime change war not occurred.
Tariff wars, stubborn inflation. No wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time.
And everybody's going to go buy gold. Okay, I guess that's the end of that little video. Okay, so anyway, very true. So all of that is very true. So let's do a little recap here. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has confirmed, this is the takeaway here, that in the next couple days or weeks, we are going to have a comprehensive DNI intelligence, American intelligence apparatus report confirming whether or not the virus, the COVID virus, actually came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. It sounds like they have put together a paper trail to actually definitively prove that this was the case. Excuse me, I'm very sorry. And then really all of us, we're going to be totally vindicated, right? Because a lot of us have been saying this for I was going to say decades, not decades. For years now, we've been saying, yeah, seems like COVID came from this Institute of Virology. We've been told, no, that's a lie. You're a conspiracy theorist. Well, it seems like now we're going to actually have a comprehensive report. But let's move on to the next story. This is maybe the biggest bombshell story of the day, and this is where things are going to get very interesting. So, As many of you know, the director, let me take a look here. The former director of national security, no, I'm sorry, the national security advisor, our former national security advisor, Mike Waltz, was fired, allegedly, this is about a week ago, because he was pushing Trump, the Trump administration, to attack Iran. And so we have a lot of different angles to talk about here. Let's start reading through this story. If you remember, a lot of you probably first got acquainted with Mike Waltz around a month ago when the Signal story swept across the country, when you had various members of the Trump administration that were bombing the Houthis in Yemen, and it was Mike Waltz who accidentally added a rabid anti-Trump journalist into this Signal chat, and then the journalist ended up leaking all of the messages to The Atlantic, I think was the name of the publisher that ended up posting all of that. So it's very strange because following that Signal leak, everybody, the entire mainstream media apparatus, they immediately pointed the finger at Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, as you know, didn't actually do anything wrong. Pete Hegseth was in the chat, but so was J.D. Vance, so was Tulsi Gabbard, so was Stephen Miller. A lot of people were. Mike Waltz is the one that added the journalist to the chat. Okay, so that was something that was always very confusing to me. Why is everybody blaming Pete Hegseth when he's not the one that added the journalist? Mike Waltz is the one that accidentally added the journalist. It was Mike Waltz. We know that that's the case. Maybe this is going to make more sense as we walk through this entire story. Let's start talking about this. A week ago, Trump fired Waltz because he wanted to attack Iran. The former national security advisor was reportedly coordinating with Israel to do it. Okay, I want to know more about this. President Trump sacked his national security advisor, Mike Waltz, because he was working with a foreign leader to push the United States to attack Iran. Let's see if this is true. According to a new report in the Washington Post. Okay, the Post reports that while including a journalist on a Signal chat about plans to attack Yemen's Houthis sealed Waltz's fate. Waltz initially upset, he made President Trump upset during Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's White House visit in February, when he, quote, appeared to share the Israeli leader's conviction that the time was ripe to attack Iran. Okay, so let's pause here. We know for a fact that there are people that are inside of the Trump administration that think we should bomb Iran. There are also people likewise inside of the Trump administration that think we should not bomb Iran, or maybe just not bomb Iran yet. In fact, President Trump himself has said publicly that, listen, he doesn't really want to bomb Iran if we can put together a diplomatic solution. Trump, he said this very explicitly in multiple occasions now. He said, if we can work out a deal with Iran, then we don't want to have to bomb them. Bombing countries in the Middle East, that's not really America first. We don't want to get involved in the Middle East again. We don't want to send another generation of young Americans to go have their legs blown off in the Middle East again. Also, just beyond, your opinion or my opinion or Trump's opinion, we have political polling. We know for a fact the majority of Americans are not interested in getting involved in another war in the Middle East. So regardless of my opinion, your opinion, Trump's opinion, we know most Americans nationwide don't want to do this again. In fact, give me a yes or no in the chat. It seems like a lot of Americans right now, we look back on the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan and we say, man, we shouldn't have done that. Man, we entered these wars under false pretenses. The weapons of mass destruction situation with Iraq, we got bogged down in Afghanistan. A lot of money and a lot of lives were wasted. Man, we shouldn't have done that. There's a lot of buyer's remorse or regret that we got involved. I think that's a yes. And so, anyway, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, you agree with me? No more. Okay, no more wars. Yeah, okay, so yes. I'm sorry. I should have told you what yes or no means. I guess I never clarified yes to what or no to what specifically. Okay, so yes, we don't want to go back in the Middle East. Yes, no. Okay, I think we're all kind of on the same page. I'm sorry, I was not very clear with how I prompted you guys there. My bad, my bad. But anyway, so most Americans don't want to get bogged down in the war in the Middle East again. Now, let's talk about, before we continue going through this situation with Mike Waltz, the implications. What are the implications of bombing the Houthis? What are the implications of bombing the IRGC, the Iranian regime? What can happen? What happens here? Okay, so over the last couple months, we have been bombing the Houthis, which are funded by Iran. They're being given weapons and missiles and bombs by Iran. They've shut down the Strait of Hormuz going into the Red Sea. They've sort of brought global trade through that region to a screeching halt. Okay, we have been, in a very targeted, very selectively, bombing the Houthi terrorist rebels that have been shutting down that trading route. Now, we learned, this is something very, very curious, okay? In these leaked signal messages, we learned something very curious. We learned that the reason why we've been bombing the Houthis, it's not to advance American maritime trade interests. It's not even to help Israel. No one in that call, J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, Mike Waltz, nobody, Stephen Miller, go back and read the messages. Nobody ever talked about Israel, and nobody ever talked about American maritime trade. In fact, to the contrary, J.D. Vance specifically says in those leaked messages, he says, listen, guys, only 3% of American maritime trade goes through this trade route. We aren't really even impacted by what the Houthis are doing. So this is J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance said, so if we are going to bomb the Houthis, we need to make sure that we are being recompensed, that we're getting a payment for doing so from Egypt and from Europe, because Egypt was really screwed over by this. And Europe also likewise was screwed over by the shutdown of this trade route, this maritime trade route. And then Stephen Miller chimes in. He says, yeah, true, pretty much. And so you have Hegseth, Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance in these leaked messages saying, listen, we can bomb the Houthis. Yeah, sure. In fact, we are the only ones in the world even capable of bombing the Houthis. We're going to do it. But if we do it, we're going to make damn sure that we're getting repaid for doing so by Europe and by Egypt. That was their rationale for doing this. In my opinion, I'm not really opposed to that, to be honest. Okay, that's fine. Like that's like kind of America first. You know, I'm kind of like maybe neutral. In fact, I'm even leaning a little bit towards, okay, go ahead and do it. But this era where we are policing the world and regulating maritime trade using our Navy and our soldiers and our taxpayer funds, that's got to come to an end. If we're going to make sure that everything around the world is operating functionally to everyone else's benefit, by the way, to Egypt's benefit, to Europe's benefit, to Latin America's benefit, we had better be getting paid for doing so. We better get something back for spending money on patrolling these waters and protecting these trade routes, right? So as long as we're getting recompense for doing this, okay, maybe we can have a conversation about that. But this era of like, okay, America needs to protect the world for free, and then also every other country around the world is going to impose trade tariffs on us. Like, okay, so let me get this straight. Egypt and Europe, you guys are going to impose trade tariffs on us while we are also protecting you by covering almost all of the NATO expenses. And then also we are protecting the Navy, making sure that pirates aren't seizing your trade ships, really? And then you're going to impose trade tariffs on us on top of that after everything we do for you? Listen, that's over. Those days are over. President Trump is back in the White House. We are going to get paid back for what we're doing now. So anyway, that was kind of tangential, but that's the takeaway that we learned from these leaked signal messages, okay? Let's get back to Mike Waltz. He was the one that allegedly, accidentally, and pay attention, Mike Waltz accidentally added this anti-Trump journalist to the signal messages, to the signal conversation. And the reason why I say accidentally, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. Let's keep reading the article here. Okay. Waltz appeared to have engaged in intense coordination with Netanyahu about military operations. Michael P.
Wow. Looks like Waltz pulled a Sonny Corleone and told someone outside the family what he was thinking. Not good. Wise to promote him out of WH.
I mean, I'll just cut to the chase here. We're going to keep talking about this, but I'll kind of give you the takeaway here before we keep reading through this. I think it is entirely possible that Mike Waltz wanted America to get more kinetically involved with Iran, bombing Iran. That seems to be the point of this article. He was more in line with Netanyahu's vision of America's role in the Middle East than he was with the Trump administration's role in the Middle East. I think it is entirely possible that Mike Waltz intentionally added a journalist to the Signal chat in order to make someone like Pete Hegseth or J.D. Vance or Tulsi Gabbard look bad. Because you'll notice after he accidentally added someone to the call, what is the narrative, or to the chat, what is the narrative that the media ran with? The narrative, the media narrative turned a blind eye to what he did, and he's the one that did it. And instead, they hyper-focused on Pete Hegseth, and he actually didn't even do anything wrong. And so here's what I think. And so now we know that Mike Waltz has been fired as a national security advisor, and he has been repositioned as the ambassador to the United Nations. So he still is a part of the Trump administration. Technically, he's the ambassador to the UN. He's no longer really in the inner circle anymore. I think it is entirely possible that Mike Waltz tried to intentionally add an anti-Trump journalist to a very sensitive Signal chat in order to make other members of the Trump admin look bad, in order to maybe try to get rid of Pete Hegseth or get rid of Tulsi Gabbard or get rid of Stephen Miller, because these people also, who's another one who is anti-bombing Iran, Howard Lutnick, who was also in that chat. I think it's possible that Mike Waltz tried to make a power play here to make Lutnick, Hegseth, Gabbard, Miller, these other people in the Trump admin look bad, to get rid of them, to silence the anti-bombing voices, the people that are speaking out against bombing Iran, to make them look bad, maybe to draw a rift in the admin, to get Trump to get rid of them, so that then we could go ahead and start bombing Iran. I think that is entirely possible. In fact, at this point, I would probably bet money on that being the case. Since Trump announced that he would engage in serious negotiations with Iranian leaders to place limits on Iran's nuclear program, an intense battle is being waged between the president's more loyal supporters who favor diplomatic engagement with countries like Iran, Russia, and North Korea, and the more traditional wing of the Republican Party, neoconservatives, who don't want to deal with Iran and are instead just pushing for war. Some of these battles surfaced before talks began, for example, during the nomination process, when establishmentarians vigorously opposed more restraint-oriented nominees like Gabbard and Elbridge Colby. While their nominations ultimately succeeded, Waltz's ouster is another sign that perhaps the war hawks in Washington and their allies abroad may not have the juice they once had in keeping the United States on a permanent war footing. So let's do like a top-down assessment here. It seems to me, let me know if you disagree, it seems to me like there are various forces both outside of our country, Netanyahu, for instance, and also various forces inside of our country. These are your neocons, people like Mike Waltz, maybe your war hawks, that want us to have a kinetic war with Iran. They want us to start bombing Iran. They want American boots on the ground in the Middle East again, full-on Iranian invasion, okay? There are most certainly people that are pushing for that right now. Thank God that there are enough people inside of the Trump administration. This is Hegseth, this is Tulsi Gabbard, this is Howard Lutnick, this is J.D. Vance, that are saying, no, we are not doing that again. We are not sending young Americans into a desert halfway across the world to get blown up again for no real reason. We're not doing that. We're not doing that again. So also it's also President Trump himself. It seems like President Trump himself is not really on board with that either. So thank God. But most certainly there is pressure on this administration to get America involved in yet another war in the Middle East. But it seems like President Trump is not eager to do that. It seems like he's not taking the bait. Also, beyond the Trump administration as an entity, it seems like Americans, let's talk about polling data or the overall American consensus here. Nobody in America wants to get involved in the Middle East again. Let's just run through a hypothetical here. If President Trump were to start aggressively bombing Iran and then start sending American soldiers into the Middle East, and we're loading up American men and women in combat positions in the Middle East again, that would be the most unpopular thing. Like, that would ruin his legacy. Whatever legacy President Trump has, however much people love him right now, let's be very clear, very honest. If Trump were to get us into another war in the Middle East, it would destroy his legacy. And I think he's got to know that. President Trump knows that. And I think that is something he cares about. He doesn't want to do that. Trump is a legacy guy. Trump cares about his polling numbers and his perception. He wants people to like him. He wants to have the support of the American people. Some people call him a populist. I don't even really think that's a bad thing. I think it's okay to be a populist. Why would you not want to have the support of the population? Okay, that's kind of how I look at it. So we have to acknowledge, if we were to get in another, early 2000s style war in the Middle East again, it would be catastrophic. It would be catastrophic for the American taxpayer. Young Americans would go die in the Middle East again for no reason. We already have $35 trillion how are we going to pay for any of this? We don't have money to do it. We're $35 trillion. We're never going to pay that off ever. We even, here's the funny thing. Even if we wanted to have another war in the Middle East, we can't pay for it. We can't do it. We can't pay for it. We're already pretty much screwed. It's just not in the cards, even if everybody wanted to do it. Now, that, I think, pretty much covers this Mike Waltz situation. It seems like he's been kicked out because he was really pushing for a war in Iran, and also maybe intentionally added that journalist into the Signal chat in an effort to undermine the Trump admin and make people like Vance and Miller and Lutnick and Hegseth look bad. Anyway, they got rid of him. Well, at least they got rid of him such that now he's no longer in the inner circle. Now he's the ambassador to the United Nations. So let's move on, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk about Kamala Harris real quick, but first, there is something I want to do with you. Oh!
Thanks for your great work. Appreciate you.
I just spilled my drink. There's water everywhere. Can you believe that? I just spilled my sparkling water everywhere. Here, I need to take probably 60 seconds. Let me get some paper towels. Sorry about this. I need paper towels. Emergency. Oh, right. No, not a big deal. Okay, so who was that real quick? Let me see. That super chat was from Cake Baby Man. I'm not blaming you. I had my drink right in front of my keyboard here, and I pulled back my keyboard, and boom, there goes the drink. You hate to see it. Okay. Well, anyway, I think just here in a minute, we're going to be ready to move on. Sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulties, I guess. All right. Okay. I think we're good. One more little wipe, and then I think we're good to go. So, okay, no, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The $20 super chat. That means a lot. Thank you very much. Okay, so what I was going to say here was, before we move on and talk about the final story of the day, which is Kamala Harris, I want to link my Twitter account. Make sure, if you guys are on, not Twitter, X, if you guys are on X, make sure to follow the X account, I do a good job of promoting the Facebook account, the community Facebook account, but we need to get more active on Twitter. So do me a favor, follow the Twitter account, get involved on Twitter also. You need to make sure you have to like every single thing that I post. If I post it, you have to like it. And so thank you. So make sure to follow that. But ladies and gentlemen, let's move on and talk about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has actually been, in a way, nominated for an Emmy, and I know that sounds insane, really just intolerably insane, but we're going to break that down. CBS shouldn't celebrate Emmy nomination for Harris interview that ignited network turmoil, industry insider says. So remember the CBS interview that was featuring Kamala Harris during the final couple months of the election, in which they edited the interview to make Kamala Harris look better. There was actually a $20 billion lawsuit that Trump has filed against CBS because they were intentionally spreading misinformation in order to influence the outcome of the presidential election. CBS got caught big time. Well, guess what? Kamala Harris's performance in that CBS interview, that very controversial interview, has now been nominated for an Emmy. You can't make this up. This is absolutely insane. Not everyone believes CBS staffers should be celebrating the controversial 60 Minutes interview at the center of President Donald Trump's high-stakes lawsuit, landing an Emmy nomination. This is not a joke. This is real life. The nominations for the 46th News and Documentary Emmy Awards were announced this week, and 60 Minutes landed several nods, most notably in the Outstanding Edited Interview category. Outstanding editing. That is the category. I feel like this like has to be a joke. The category for Kamala Harris's Emmy nomination is Outstanding Edited Interviews. And this is the reason why there is a $20 billion lawsuit against CBS, because they edited her interview in an effort to manipulate the outcome of the presidential election. This is insane. Trump is seeking $20 billion from CBS News and its parent company, Paramount Global, for what he alleged was election interference. Oh, it was election interference with how the network edited its interview with Harris in the days leading up to the presidential election. By the way, wisdom, nuggets, and tidbits, thank you very much for the $10 donation for the super chat. I appreciate that. CBS Evening News executive producer Guy Campanile took to social media to declare the nomination a mic drop moment. But one insider doesn't believe the nomination will help things from a legal standpoint. This will most certainly, I would imagine this will seriously harm them from a legal point. And now that I think about that, what if President Trump, what if the Trump administration has insiders? What if Trump has an inside man on the Emmy nomination panel and they're intentionally, strategically nominating this interview in specifically the edited interview category in order to further build a case against Kamala Harris and CBS, because it just looks bad. It looks terrible. That would be funny. But anyway, that's probably not the case, although it is funny to think about. The irony is, some folks at 60 Minutes are popping champagne over an Emmy nomination for the same interview that landed them in legal hot water to the tune of $20 billion. It's a reminder that these awards are voted on by other journalists, not the public. Do you folks think that journalists working at the Emmy Awards are out of touch with the real world? They're out of touch with society? Yeah, I do. I think they probably are. I think they're freaking insane. HTW.
Have been watching you for some time now. Yes, I subscribed. Great work getting the word out there. Keep it up, my friend.
Thank you, HTW. Thank you very, very much. Can I tell you? Well, let me double back. I'll give you my origin story later. But HTW, thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. That really means a lot, and it goes a long way. Now, while we are talking about Kamala Harris and the recent presidential election. This is a survey, a poll rather, that came out of CNN just the other day, talking about whether or not people regret who they voted for 5 months ago. Take a look at this.
Who would be doing a better job as president? Guess who comes out on top? Within the margin of error, but comes out on top. This looks a lot like the election result, right? Trump 45%, 2 points ahead of Harris at 43%. 12% say they'd be doing about the same. But this is the key nugget here. It's not just about regretting that vote. It's literally saying who would be doing the better job right now. And Trump continues to score a higher percentage of the vote than Kamala Harris. This looks a heck of a lot like the election result. We have just seen this in poll after poll after poll.
Poll after poll after poll, people still believe and side with and support President Trump. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room here. 43%. It's like, seriously? 43% of Americans nationwide think that Kamala Harris would be doing a better job right now in this country than President Trump. I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we know for a fact that during the Biden administration, in just a very short 4-year period, 20 million illegal immigrants entered this country. 20 million, break that down. What's 20 divided by 4? Do the math. Beep, 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 beep. 5 million people per year. 5 million illegal immigrants per year entered this country during the reign of Joe Biden. Would that trend have continued or probably even picked up in pace if Kamala Harris had been elected? Absolutely. Absolutely. By the end of I want you all to really understand and appreciate just how close we came as a country to the brink of complete and total destruction. We very possibly could have had 4 years of Joe Biden into 8 years of Kamala Harris if she had won this election. Because normally incumbents tend to win. So it's like if you win the first one, you're probably going to win the second one. That kind of tends to be how it goes. So we came very, very close to 12 years of this. 12 years of this. 4 years Biden. And in fact, if you want to go even bigger picture, it actually would have been 8 years of Obama into 4 years of Trump, into 4 years of Biden, into 8 years of Kamala Harris. At that point, you're just living in a progressive hellscape dictatorship. If you're a conservative American, you're screwed. There's
Even
nothing.
the fake polls cook Kamala Lamau.
Yeah, you know, it's probably worse than this, Matthew. Mr. Yakush, thank you. You're right. Yeah, you're probably right. As we all know, I mean, everybody talks about this. Their goal, the progressive goal, was to intentionally leave the border open, import as many illegal immigrants as they possibly could, fundamentally change the demographic of the country, the demographics of the country. You know, I say this all the time, but the progressives, the Democrats, they realized that they have a losing political platform. It is intolerable for most American voters what the Democrats, what the progressives have been trying to do. So they realize they have lost the game, the competition of democracy. So what have they decided to do instead? Well, if we can't get people to vote for us because our political agenda, our policies are so incompetent and suicidal, nationally suicidal, what we're going to do instead is just open up the border and bring in 5 million third world immigrants every single year for as many years as we possibly can. We're just going to flip over the board game. We're going to flip over the table and we're going to start playing by our own rules. And I genuinely, seriously believe that if Kamala Harris had won this recent election, there wouldn't have been a country to salvage. We could not survive as a country if we had another 20 million illegal immigrants. We were barely able to bring the country back from the brink after 4 years of Biden and the 20 million that he brought into the country. Imagine the number is not 20 million, it's 40 million or maybe even 60 million if you have 8 years of Kamala Harris. This country only has 350 million people. Imagine you bring in 60 million illegal immigrants, a lot of which are voting. We would not have America as we know it anymore. This would be a one-state, uniparty, progressive, globalist hellscape dictatorship. And you, conservative, tax-paying American, guess what? You don't get a say anymore. Guess what? Your opinion doesn't matter anymore Because for every one of you, now there's 10 illegal immigrant third worlders in the country. You don't matter anymore. That was the agenda. That was the goal. Okay? Let's just be very clear about that. That was the agenda. So thank God that didn't happen. And still, even after what's been 5 months now since the election, still most Americans support President Trump. 43% think Kamala Harris would be doing a better job now. I'm not sure why, because take a look at this. Kamala Harris gave her first live appearance since losing the election 5 months ago. This is what that live appearance looks like. This happened 2 days ago. Take a look.
In fact, please allow me, friends, to digress for a moment. Okay. It's kind of dark in here, but I'm asking for a show of hands. Who saw that video from a couple of weeks ago, the one of the elephants at the San Diego Zoo during the earthquake? Google it if you've not seen it. So that scene has been on my mind. Everybody's asking me what you've been thinking about these days. Well,
so Kamala Harris, this is your first live appearance since losing the election 5 months ago. What have you been up to? Well, I've been drinking a lot of wine and I've been watching elephant videos on YouTube. I'm an alcoholic and I watch elephants on YouTube. Folks, we came this close to having this insane, incompetent woman as our president. We came this close to having this as our president. And still, what percent? 43% of people think that she would be doing a better job right now than President Trump. Now, to be fair, this is a CNN survey here. This is CNN covering it at least. And so probably this number 43% is a little bit inflated. You know, maybe it's closer to 30 or 35% because CNN has to inject their political partisan bias. So, you know, maybe things aren't as bad as 43% of people preferring Kamala Harris right now, but still a lot of people do. But you know what? The ticket wasn't only Kamala Harris. We also had this guy. His name is Tim Waltz. It's a rough week to be someone with the last name Waltz. You have Mike Waltz, who got fired from the Trump admin, or reassigned rather. And then you have Tim Waltz here, who is just take a look.
And I think after the fact, it is not second guessing or anything. I think it's fair to go back on and look at this. Look, we had the most qualified person who'd run for president in this country's history at the top of the ticket.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need to take a moment of silence just to really appreciate how stupid that was. Sometimes you are confronted with something that is so incredibly stupid, you just have to kind of take a deep breath. You have to stop. You have to compose yourself, get a grip. I'm going to restart the video. Let's play the entire video. Play the entire video again. Go back.
I think after the fact, it is not second guessing or anything. I think it's fair to go back on and look at this. Look, we had the most qualified person who'd run for president in this country's history at the top of the ticket. That in itself should have got this thing won.
Yeah.
We had, in my opinion, and you can disagree with me, I think history will prove me right, a very unqualified person on the other side. And you have to determine, how do you get those hits? What was the best way? Did it make sense to continue to, call him weird or call that out, or make this pitch that we are significantly different and our policies can improve your lives? And there's people that make those decisions, and whether it's right or wrong or not, I guess history will.
The top policy points of Kamala Harris and Tim Waltz, in my mind, open border, illegal immigrants flooding the country, and tampons in every middle school boy's bathroom. So every middle school boy gets a tampon machine in their bathroom, and all of your neighbors are now illegal immigrant MS-13 gang members. Hey, neighbor. Hey, you just moved into town? That is the Kamala Harris, that is the Kamala Tim Waltz campaign promise summed up. Your neighborhood is now a ghetto, and your middle school son now has access to tampons in the bathroom. And there's the Kamala Harris platform. Also, just the sheer, I don't know, historical ignorance or just fundamental incompetence of saying that Kamala Harris was the most qualified presidential candidate of all time. I mean, let's just kind of walk that back here for a second. Hillary Clinton was undeniably more qualified than Kamala Harris. Hillary Clinton, like on paper, if you were to look at Hillary Clinton's resume, she was qualified to be president. Of course, I think she is a demonic Satan spawn who crawled out from a sulfurous fracture in the Earth's crust right out of hell, who came into our surface world to bring about the end times. But anyway, no, on paper, she was qualified. You can't deny that. She had, she had the qualifications. But even so, not even Hillary Clinton was the most qualified person. Like you can go back. Who comes to mind? Probably George H.W. Bush. If you really consider everything, he was probably the most qualified. He was I've got my notes here. George H.W. Bush in 1988, when he ran for president, he was a World War II Navy pilot who flew missions in the Pacific. He was a U.S. House representative for 4 years. He was the ambassador to the United Nations at one point. He was the chairman for a couple years of the Republican National Committee, the RNC. He was the ambassador to China. He was the director of the CIA, and he was the vice president to Ronald Reagan. So once again, to be clear, I'm not really the biggest fan of George H.W. Bush either, to be honest. But if you just want to look at the resume, okay, you've got a resume here. Let's see what you did in the past. Your former job, you were a director of CIA, whatever. It's like, okay, that's an impressive resume, even if you don't like the guy or you don't like the guy's policy. Okay, he was, if you look at the resume, he was qualified to be president, probably technically the most qualified person that we've had. And I'm saying that as someone that doesn't even agree with really his policy or his agenda. But anyway, back to the original point. The point is saying that Kamala Harris was the most qualified person, the most qualified presidential candidate ever. Really? What are we doing here? Seriously? It's just like saying things like that. It's just, I don't know about you guys. When somebody says something like this, I kind of get personally offended. Maybe I take it personally. It's like, how dumb do you think I am? Okay, so if you expect me to go along with this and nod my head, oh yeah, wow, yeah, she was super qualified. Oh wow. You must really think I'm stupid. If you expect me to nod my head and go along with this fundamentally incompetent thing that you are saying, you must really think that I'm stupid if you think that I'm going to go, or alternatively, you are stupid. Or either way, you are stupid or you think that I'm stupid. But either way, I don't want anything to do with it. So that's kind of what that is. Ladies and gentlemen, that actually kind of wraps up all of these big news stories that I wanted to talk about with you guys today. So I think now maybe we can hang out for 15 or 20 minutes and we can talk, just kind of hang out and get to know each other. There actually is one more really big point of drama. I really didn't want to have to talk about this, folks, but I think I need to address the controversy. Some of you might know Mark Mitchell here. He works at Rasmussen Reports, really great pollster, probably the #1 pollster. He posted on Twitter earlier today. He said that, he said, why are we all pretending that Revenge of the Sith, the Star Wars movie, is some achievement of modern cinema? And then I said The Phantom Menace was the best one. I said The Phantom Menace was the best of the newer Star Wars movie. And then he said, oof, as if The Phantom Menace was not good. The Phantom Menace was a good movie. The Phantom Menace was a great movie, and I'm sick of pretending that it wasn't. The Phantom Menace was awesome. But anyway, okay, jokes aside, let me go full webcam here. Okay, so yeah, I have probably 15 or 20 minutes before I have to get back to work, folks. And by get back to work, I mean I've got to make I've got to get 2 videos written up tonight, so I have something to upload onto YouTube tomorrow. I have to say, guys, I'm just, we're kind of winding down the show here, by the way, but we're going to hang out for a couple minutes. We had over 4,000 people tuning in today. I cannot freaking believe that. So I just want to say real quick, thank you all very much for tuning in today. Like I said, we have a couple more minutes here, but the support as of late, all of the super chat, all of the memberships, all of the new people subscribing to the channel and tuning in. Thank you all very, very much. I appreciate it. Over 4,000, that's insane. That's crazy. There's my beautiful dog back there, my beautiful German Shepherd. She is 9 years old. Her name is Laika. Laika, the German Shepherd back there. Matt, do you know Al Berry's YouTube videos? I don't think so. Maybe if I pull up the name and I look, I'll recognize it, but I don't recognize the name, I hate to say. Am I in California? No, I live in Washington, in the great state of Washington. Oops.
Greek content, no matter what you call your channel. Grew up in DC and studied politics my whole life.
You know, Jason Wild, first off, thank you very much. Thank you. That's awesome. DC is like, ew, DC, the swamp. DC, I think, is a beautiful city. I've been there one time, walking up and down it's called the Mall. I think there's all the museums and all of the really beautiful neoclassical architecture. You know, like DC is cool to go visit a couple times. I'm not sure if I'd want to live there and be involved in all of the political mumbo jumbo, but DC is a cool town. I think it is. I've been there once. So cool. It's funny, but actually both of my parents are political science majors, although here's the really terrible thing. Both of my parents are progressives. I don't know what tree. I guess the apple fell far from the tree, but both of my parents are university educated. They both got degrees in political science, and I am conservative, and I'm actually radically conservative. And my dad is a little bit left of center, centrist, leftist. My mom is really progressive. My mom is very progressive. But anyway, what that means is that we get to have some very fun conversations around the dinner table. And anytime we have a family get together, then we can have some very interesting conversations. It's true. But keep in mind, okay, I grew up in the Portland, Oregon area. For a time, I went to Portland Public Schools. Portland is the hotbed. It's probably the single most progressive city, Portland, Oregon, in the country. If not the most, it's like a top 5. Right? Seattle, LA, San Francisco, Portland, whatever, right? And so Minneapolis, maybe. And so anyway, I have grown up surrounded by radical progressives. I've got many of my close friends and family members are radically progressive. I went to high school and college with people that ended up joining Antifa and got arrested. In fact, I almost dated a girl. I went to high school with a girl. We almost dated, we didn't end up dating really though. Anyway, flash forward 4 or 5 years. Now she's in her early 20s. She got, during the George Floyd Black Lives Matter riots in downtown Portland, she got arrested. She blew up a cop car. She used an aerosol canister and ignited it, lit it on fire, and then threw it into a cop car. She blew up a cop car in downtown Portland. She joined Antifa. And now she is a convicted domestic terrorist who's sitting in a federal prison cell. This girl that I almost dated in high school. So anyway, I have grown up in this environment. I have grown up around these people. I've grown up surrounded by these people. So you went to Aloha High School? Yeah, in the area. It's all in the Portland suburban area. That's where I'm from. So I don't know how I turned out the way that I did, but honestly, probably one of the reasons why I am so radically conservative or whatever old school, it's probably because I have seen firsthand, just what happens to a city, what happens to people's lives when they pursue this radical progressive ideology. I have watched my hometown, Portland, Oregon, just in the last 20 years completely deteriorate. And I have seen the lives of people that I used to be friends with or went to school with just completely implode because they have likewise pursued this radical progressive lifestyle or radical progressive ideology. It's terrible.
One of two, GOP should eliminate filibuster. If Dems ever retake Senate, Dems would nix it, so it's strategic now.
Yeah.
Pass full MAGA agenda and, if needed, pack SCOTUS. Biden/Dems said they'd pack it. Trump should do it.
They did say that. The Democrats have said two things. They said they will pack SCOTUS. They have said that, and they have also said that if they ever gain control of the House and the Senate again, they will activate the nuclear option. The nuclear option means, okay, so normally in order to pass a bill through the House, you need a simple majority. What is that, like 215 votes in the House or something like that? Anyway, it's not that hard to meet that threshold. So Republicans can pass a bill in the House right now. The problem is passing a bill through the Senate. Right now, to pass a bill in the Senate, you need 60 votes. Hold that thought, though. Michael P. Michael.
2 of 2, have Senate adjourn and recess, appoint Mark Levin and those we know would execute MAGA agenda. Enough already. Jackson and Teddy Roosevelt were revolutionary, as is Trump. The time is now. Matt, continued success. You and Trump are doing.
Hey, thank you. Andrew, I like that you say Jackson. Andrew Jackson is the best president in U.S. history. Of course I love President Trump, but man, Andrew Jackson, he was something else. If you guys are ever bored one day, you should go and read through the Wikipedia page for Andrew Jackson. Man, Andrew Jackson, that was a president. Man, what a president. Anyway, no, thank you very much. Thank you again. Thank you very, very much. That's you guys, all of you guys, a lot of support lately. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah. So let's talk realistic things, realistic options that the America First Republicans could do right now. So I was talking about the nuclear option in the Senate. Normally to pass a bill in the Senate, you need 60 votes in the Senate. That threshold is very, very high. Right now, the Republicans have 63 votes in the Senate. I'm sorry, 53 votes in the Senate. Acid burn.
I like your show, buddy. Keep it up, and I always want to see the dog every show. My dog died 3 days after Christmas.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's terrible, as losing a dog. That's the worst thing ever.
Continue. DC is a beautiful city. Growing up, my best friend's father was Ted Bell, Sec of Education for 8 years for President Reagan. And unlike you, I live in one of the most conservative places in the country, American Fork, Utah.
I'll tell you real quick before I continue talking about the Senate, Jason. Right now, I want you guys to know all of the YouTube revenue, all of the super chats, all of this wisdom.
Praying for UK. They are being annihilated with illegal migrants and they have no space for it. Pray for our brothers and sisters in the UK.
That is true. I was thinking about making a video about the UK here pretty soon, actually talking about what's been going on. Thank you very much. And we are saving money. So that $10, that $19.99, the $50, we are saving money to leave Washington and move to North Idaho. In fact, I think about a year from now, we will be moving to North Idaho, where we can raise our family, because we have 2 young kids. We're a young family. My wife and I, we've been married about 5 years. We have a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son, and maybe more in the future. We want to raise a family in a state that is not mentally insane. I would call Washington State mentally insane. The legislation that is being passed in this state is unhinged. It is absolutely antithetical to the way that my wife and I want to live and raise our family, at least. So we are saving money to get out of Washington. But anyway, no, thank you guys very much. What I was going to say, frick, I'm trying to remember what I was going. Oh yeah, so it takes 60 votes in the Senate to pass a bill. The Republicans have 53. I think you could argue that they actually only have 50 because, as we just saw the other day, three of the Senate Republicans, Rand Paul, Murkowski, and another one whose name I'm forgetting, voted against voted alongside the Democrats to shut down President Trump's tariffs. They betrayed the Republicans in the Senate, so it's like kind of weird. Anyway, the threshold to pass a bill through the Senate is almost impossibly high. You need 60 senators. Pause, though. There is a way. There's something called the nuclear option. It's a roundabout way. It's a procedural move. It knocks the threshold down to only needing a simple majority, 51 votes in the Senate to pass a bill through the Senate. But the reason why this is a concerning maneuver to pull is because once you bump that threshold down from 60, it's kind of permanently bumped down. And then, think in the future, what if the Republicans lose control of the Senate and a couple years from now, the Democrats have control of the Senate, then they can pass whatever they want, also likewise with 51 votes. So it might be expedient to go nuclear now, but what about 2 years or 4 years from now when maybe the Democrats have the Senate? So I'll tell you though, rumor on the block is that the House Republicans, the Trump administration, the Senate Republicans are trying to front load dozens of monumental bills, get them passed through the House. That's the easy part. And so they already have dozens. This is the conspiracy, I guess, or the idea is that they will already have dozens of really substantive, monumental pieces of legislation already passed through the House. They'll go nuclear in the Senate, and then they'll be able to pass dozens of pieces of legislation, dozens of bills through the Senate all at once. And then you can maybe fundamentally change the country so much overnight that the Democrats won't even really be able to do anything about it. Now, of course, the problem is, like we said a minute ago, there are 53 Republicans in the Senate. 3 of them are maybe not willing to play ball, right? That knocks us down to 50. So then you only have 50 Republicans in the Senate. Well, guess what? If you go nuclear, you need 51. So what? So I don't know. Then I guess maybe we're waiting until after midterms.
If you want to learn more about UK issues, you should watch Mehar Tausi. YouTube channel is Tausi TV.
Tausi TV. I'll check that out. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll tell you, I've been to the UK twice in my life, in 2007 and probably 7 years ago, 2018. Hold that thought.
Everybody look up World Economic Forum. These are the people who are ordering people like Joe and all these socialist Democrats. The government people pushing this stuff in Congress and acting the way they are. They're just reading, they don't know.
Yeah, I think you have a lot of people that are bought and paid for. Yes, they are more loyal to rootless, foreign, multinational institutions than they are to America and the Americans therein. I think that's a good way to put it. They truly are globalists in the sense of the word. They don't view America proper, a country. They don't view America as a country worth preserving as it is now. They view America as an economic zone. But beyond that, beyond an economic zone with which to make money and extract resources, they couldn't give one crap about the American people or American culture or American history or what made America great in the first place. These things don't matter, right? They truly are borderless globalists in the true fundamental sense of the word. I think you're right. That's how I feel about it, at least. And you've got a lot of those. I think you already see that mindset has pretty much saturated the entire continent of Europe, or Western Europe at least. Western Europe is led and run and maintained by those sort of people. The European Union, positioned in Brussels, the World Economic Forum. In fact, the video I uploaded today was talking about Germany and how they have now classified the AfD as an extremist
Trump is
organization.
demolishing the Democratic Party by turning their TDS against them. They are spinning out of control. It's beautiful.
Now, Zaid, let's talk about America here. I think here in America, I think these type of the Democrats, the radical globalist progressives, whatever you want to call them here in America, existential crisis. They are screwed.
Any news about James O'Keefe? Good luck on your move. Hubs and I love watching your videos.
Well, shout out to D Summers and the husband. Thank you very much. Tell him I said hi. Thank you. News on James O'Keefe. You know, I actually have not followed that story super closely, so I can't give you the comprehensive story. As far as I understand it, about a week ago, he said that he had a bombshell expose that was going to like fundamentally change everything. And then he went dark, and then he hasn't been heard of in a week or more. And he also said that he was not suicidal. So I don't know. It sounded like he had some big massive bombshell that was going to kind of shake everything up. That was a week ago, maybe 8 or 9 days ago, but you probably know more about it than I do. I should look into that because I only know surface level kind of what's going on with that. Oh, let me change my position here. But yeah, that's that. I mean, hopefully he hasn't been kidnapped or sent to some black site or something. Hopefully he's okay. Why do you think Idaho is the reddest state in all of the land? Mormons, which thank God for that, but yes, they're entirely there. I do think there are a lot of Mormons in Southeast Idaho specifically, but let's be clear, Idaho is redder than Utah, which is pretty much like its own little micro Mormon country in a lot of ways. So I'm not really sure what series of circumstances have led to Idaho being so incredibly conservative, but it is. I'm sure the Mormons are part of it, I'm sure. I think technically the most conservative state in the country is actually Wyoming. It's Wyoming. I know that's actually a fact. The most conservative state in the country is Wyoming. It is also the least populated state in the country. The fewest number of people live in Wyoming compared to any other state. So least populated and also the most conservative state. Also, Wyoming actually is a 0% income tax state also. About a week ago, I had a conversation with my wife. I said, sweetie, I know we've been talking about Idaho, but what if we move to Wyoming? There's no income tax. Well, the problem is that Wyoming is super expensive. There's really I have a natural affinity for the forest. I really love the forests of the Pacific Northwest. I could never live in a place that doesn't have kind of quintessential Pacific Northwest forests. So that's my hang up. So Oregon, Washington, Northern California, Northern Idaho, Western Wyoming. The problem is Western Wyoming is like, if you want to have a house, it's going to be $2 million. It's a little bit unrealistic, but anyway, I love the forests. I have to live in a forest. Gotta have it. Western Montana, British Columbia, Alaska, that type of forest. I have to have it. That's my problem. Wyoming is also the state with the lowest incidence of natural disasters. Yeah, well, until there is the natural disaster. Wyoming, every year there's like a 0.000027% chance of not a natural disaster, but the natural disaster. What is that natural disaster? Yellowstone. And then everybody dies. So, maybe it doesn't matter. It's like either you die, if Yellowstone explodes, either you die in the initial blast or you die a week later in the fallout, so either way, everybody's dead. So whatever, Dude, my nose is so itchy. I think it's my allergies. Anyway, I guess it doesn't matter because you're dead either way. So whatever. Anyway, the super volcano. But I think there's it's a pretty much a 0% chance of that happening. Matt, you ever thought about visiting the country of Ireland? Not really, but I like to travel. And I could see myself going to Ireland someday. So I've talked about this before. My wife is from Germany. My wife is a German. And so half of my family now lives in Western Germany. And so anytime, we've got 2 kids and they, my wife's family, they want to see the kids and stuff. So really at this point in life, any big trip that we do, it's like, okay, we're going to Germany because we got to go visit the family. So, but yeah, I think someday I think going to Ireland would be cool. Why am I so cheerful? I'm just a happy guy. I don't know. I love life. I've got a good life and I'm happy everybody's having a fun stream tonight. I probably do need to go. Okay, you know what? 9 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm cutting you off in 9 minutes, okay? And then I'm out of here. I need to get to work on putting together tomorrow's videos. But 9 minutes, okay? So everybody be happy for the moment. Vescu, hey, I'll keep your identity. I know who you are. I'll keep your identity secret. Yeah, maybe we go to... this is going to sound weird, but I always have wanted to go to Russia. I think Russia has some beautiful geography, but the problem is there's a war and, I would suspect that if I were to go visit Russia right now, they would probably guess that I'm like a CIA operative. They would throw me into a prison cell. So, or something. I don't know. So it's anyway, probably it's not smart to go to Russia anytime soon, but I do think Russia seems cool to go visit. I like the forests. What can I say? I'm a forest guy. Oregon likes outsiders less than Idaho. Ever notice there are signs when you cross into the state? It says, please enjoy your visit. Basically saying, okay, visit for a minute. Oh, you think Idaho likes outsiders? Sorry, Oregon likes outsiders less than Idaho. I guess I haven't noticed that. I'll tell you, I remember my entire life, there has been this negative stigma of Californians moving up from California into Oregon for a long time. I actually went to, like you would meet someone new in Oregon. You'd say, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from California. Oh, another one. Another Californian moved up here. That is one of the things, but, so I guess in that regard, yeah, true. Hey, Matt, what do you think of Colorado? I think Colorado's cool. I don't think I would ever live there, but we used to have, we had some family members that lived in Idaho, and they had like a winter cabin, and we'd go visit the winter cabin. Sometimes they had in Idaho. It's cool, but I think I wouldn't live there, but Idaho is beautiful. I think the Rocky Mountains are gorgeous. The Colorado Rocky Mountains are beautiful. Very cool. People in Idaho are friendly. I have heard about people in Idaho also not really wanting Oregonians or Californians or Washingtonians moving into Idaho. I have heard that. But I think that's probably more related to the fact that they don't want a bunch of progressives moving into Idaho, ruining the state with their progressive ideology. So I think if you move to a state like Idaho and you are reasonably, conservative, or you have some common sense, I think they're probably going to be fine. I think they're probably going to be fine. Tennessee is awesome. This is maybe 3 years ago. Before we landed on Idaho, we were considering Tennessee, moving to Tennessee, but then we kind of decided against it. Tennessee is also seems like a good state, though. Good state. Let me see this. Chris says, I was an infantryman involved in the Iraq invasion. Iraq did have chemical weapons. We kept coming across not only the military semi-trailers designed to mix chemical, but also barrels of chemicals. Yeah, I'll take your word for it. Maybe there's a difference between chemical weapons and weapons of mass destruction. When you think weapons of mass destruction, you think of, nuclear weapons. I'm not sure. Probably if chemical weapons are terminologically.
Is it safe and secure to give, even being that I just sent you this? But I need to know.
Hold up, wait a minute. Is it safe and secure to give, even being that I just sent you this, but I need to know? Yeah. I guess I'm not really sure what you're asking, but hey, I appreciate the $5. It is safe and secure. You are safe and you are secure. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the $5. Thank you. Tijuana border jumper.
Love your show and delivery. Great. Smiley face emoji. Job brother. USA emoji. Gold medal emoji. USA emoji.
Thank you, Tijuana border jumper. I appreciate the $5, but you have got to go. We are deporting you. Tom Homan.
I love that dog. She love you. It's easy to see that.
She's a nice dog. She's a very lovely, lovely German Shepherd. She's a good dog. I've had her since she was 8 weeks old. We've been together for a long time. She's a great dog. Thank you, Acid Burn. But anyway, real quick, yeah, Tom Homan, if you're tuning into the stream, any ICE agents, Tijuana border jumpers in the chat, and we have to get this person out of the country. So you gotta go. Thank you. Thomas Lombard, what do you think will happen ultimately to South Africa? I hate to sound defeatist. I hate to sound negative. I think if you are a white person in South Africa, if you are one of these white farmers or a boer, I don't know how to say it, I think you should go. I think for your own safety and for the safety of your family, I think you should probably get out of that country. That's my take. Of course, I'm not there on the ground. I haven't been there on the ground, so maybe the conditions you think are survivable or tenable, but it seems to me, this is my outsider perspective, it seems to me like things in South Africa are very bad. It seems like, in fact, I saw a video just a couple days ago circulating on Twitter of, I think it was Malema, who's the leader of that radical like Black Power party in Africa, whatever the party's called. Now they're talking about invading Orania. Orania is that town reserved only for ethnic Boers that speak the Afrikaans language, whatever it is. So now this radical party, this radical anti-white party in South Africa is talking about invading this town, which is in the middle of nowhere, and seizing the land and seizing the property and taking everything over. I think it's not good. I would suspect that within the next 5 years you have shootouts. I would suspect in the next 5 years you have armed black militia groups trying to raid and attack Orania. That would be my guess. I hope I'm wrong. I sincerely hope that I'm wrong, but I look at all of the racist, anti-white, violent rhetoric coming from that political party. I forget the name of the party, but it seems like a very bad situation. It seems like a very bad situation. So if I were over there right now, I hate to say it, but I would probably take up President Trump's offer. Trump offered those people refugee asylum status to come here and live in America. I would advise those people to come to America and leave South Africa. Leave that country to its own devices and come here and be prosperous in America. I know people have, like, people feel attached to their land, right? Of course we all do. But I think it's going to be bad long term. I think that situation is not going to get any better. I hate to say. Why is Harvard allowed to teach white privilege and all kinds of hatred towards whites for decades, but students' criticism of Israel an issue? It's because, I mean, if you want to be blunt, it's because you have Jewish activist groups, but you don't have white activist groups. You can talk about why, but I think that's pretty much why. Constant Spirit.
My best friend lives in WAD, is ex-military. I want you to take this even though you just made me a fool in front of all these PLL.
No.
Enjoy. Are you a Christian as well as conservative?
First off, Constant Spirit, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that $100. I really, really do. Listen, I maybe at great professional risk, I'm a very honest person and I don't ever want to lie to you guys. I consider myself to be more of a type of deist person. A lot of our founding fathers were deists. I'm more of a deist person. In fact, I've said this before, and I always like to follow this up by saying, if you are a Christian, feel free. You can pray for me. I feel like it's just not an experience. I haven't had that moment yet. When you talk to a really devout Christian, they always say, you say, okay, how do you know? How do you know that it's true? Or how do you know that, you know, how can you confirm the divinity of Christ or this or that? And they say, well, I felt it. I feel it in the moment. Like I had a moment. I guess I haven't had that yet, but I'm not like opposed to it. Does that make sense? It just hasn't happened, I guess. So, you know, I guess if you want to pray for me, that's great. Maybe it'll help out someday. But at the moment, I guess I have, like I said, a lot of there's dog hair everywhere. Like I said, a lot of the founding fathers kind of also shared this belief where it's kind of, I don't know, maybe part of the way, but not all the way there. But no, I never want to lie to you guys. In fact, I would actually caution the audience. I really think there are a lot of Christian grifters. Have you guys noticed this? And this is like I said, I never want to lie to anyone. I think there are a lot of conservative content creators, conservative influencers that lie about their religious devotion in order to pander to an audience or to deceive an audience when maybe they don't actually feel that way or don't have a certain conviction. I feel like I see that all the time. And I just want to be honest. I don't want to lie to you guys. And so that's just kind of how I feel. So that's that. But you know what? Nothing is solid. Nothing is set in stone. Everything is kind of transitory, I guess. So that's kind of what it is. But yeah, I just don't ever want to lie to you guys about it. Anyway, and by the way, thank you again for the $100 donation. I really appreciate that. I really, really do appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again. But all I can do is be upfront and never try to deceive anyone about it. Okay. Rick, there was something else that I was responding to, but I can't remember it now. Michael P. Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Praying for you, Matt. I think you're closer to Christ than you may think now.
You know what? That might be the case. Actually, this is kind of a little bit of a, oh, we're going overtime here. We had so my grandmother died a couple weeks ago, and this last weekend or maybe 2 weekends ago, we had a big family get together, and we have a lot of I'm not even sure what the proper term is. Probably pastor. If you're in the Lutheran church, what is the term? Is it a pastor? If you're a Lutheran, anyway. So we had a big Lutheran get together in this Lutheran church to do a celebration of life event for my grandmother that passed away. And so very recently I sat through about a 2-hour-long Lutheran sermon. Because I'm not even familiar with the terminology. Maybe a sermon or probably a eulogy. And I thought it was a very beautiful thing. In fact, actually, my grandmother that passed away, it was her brother. He's in his 70s. He's been a pastor, maybe, I'm not sure the term once again, his entire life. And so it was very beautiful. He actually gave the sermon or the eulogy for his own sister, my grandmother, who passed away. So that was also like particularly touching. But anyway, no, it was a great experience. Well, I mean, my grandmother died, but it was as great and beautiful of an experience as it could be considering someone had died. Does that make sense? Anyway, listen, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, no, I appreciate that, Brian. Thank you. It is overtime, 3 minutes overtime, and I need to go because I want to have 2 videos on YouTube for you guys tomorrow, and I need to write them tonight. I need to do my research and type them up tonight so that I have videos for you guys tomorrow. And also, by the way, tomorrow there will be another evening stream just like this one at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Western. Okay, so there will be another live broadcast tomorrow and 2 videos before that in the morning or the afternoon. But in order to make that happen, I got to get out of here. So thank you all very much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Thank you guys. I do want to say real quick, one more time, I need to find my Twitter page here. Make sure to follow the Twitter page. We need more followers on Twitter, so thank you very much. I will see you all tomorrow. Like I said, videos in the morning and a stream in the afternoon, or the evening rather. And hope everybody has a good rest of your Saturday and a good Sunday morning. And then we'll touch base tomorrow. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, though. Acid Burn, thank you. Yeah, I need to go right to work and start figuring out what we're talking about tomorrow. So thank you, guys. Have a great night. And I appreciate all of you tuning in this evening. So thank you very much. I am out of here.